Seriously. Stop trying to. Stop trying to. Stop trying to look for a fight with me, 'cause no one will win. I'm spending twice of the energy to watch you begin. Might be too soon to call you out, and maybe someday we'll see eye to eye, eye to eye. Stop trying to. Stop trying to look for a fight with me. Yeah, you gotta know I love you. Yes, I do. And sometimes it ain't enough to make it through. All the names you shout at me, all the red I make you see. Sorry, but it's true. Stop trying to look for a fight with me, 'cause no one will win. I'm spending twice of the energy to watch you begin. Might be too soon to call you out, and maybe someday we'll see eye to eye, eye to eye. Stop trying to look for a fight with me, 'cause no one will win. I'm spending twice of the energy to watch you begin. Might be too soon to call you out, and maybe someday we'll see eye to eye, eye to eye. There are times I wish I knew you like a friend. Maybe if I did, we'd come through in the end. All the opportunities, all the hopes for you and me, stories far from proof. Stop trying to look for a fight with me, 'cause no one will win. I'm spending twice of the energy to watch you begin. Might be too soon to call you out, and maybe someday we'll see eye to eye, eye to eye. Stop trying to. I'm not asking you to read me or my mind. Being different doesn't mean we gotta lie. All we needed is the truth. All we found's a crazy safari every time. Seriously. Stop trying to. Stop trying to. Stop trying to look for a fight with me, 'cause no one will win. I'm spending twice of the energy to watch you begin. Might be too soon to call you out, and maybe someday we'll see eye to eye, eye to eye. Stop trying to. Stop trying to look for a fight with me. Yeah, you gotta know I love you. Yes, I do. And sometimes it ain't enough to make it through. All the names you shout at me, all the red I make you see. Sorry, but it's true. Stop trying to look for a fight with me, 'cause no one will win. I'm spending twice of the energy to watch you begin. Might be too soon to call you out, and maybe someday we'll see eye to eye, eye to eye. Stop trying to look for a fight with me, 'cause no one will win. I'm spending twice of the energy to watch you begin. Might be too soon to call you out, and maybe someday we'll see eye watch you begin. Might be too soon to call you out, and maybe someday we'll see eye to eye, eye to eye. Stop trying to. Safari every time. Seriously. Stop trying to. Stop trying to.
Check. Is this working? It seems like it is. Yay. Hi, everyone. It's dolltr or Claire, as I go by when I'm teaching at 343 Labs. Welcome to another episode of 343 TV's Tips and Tricks with dolltr. And hi to everyone in the chat. We have John returning again. Hi, John. Hello to Andrew as well. Welcome back. Thank you so much, Andrew. Andrew's always leaving some very nice positive comments about looking forward to the show. So I really appreciate you tuning in. This episode's kind of bittersweet. I don't know if y'all know this, but it's going to be our last episode of 343 of tips and tricks for season 1 of 343 TV. So I might not see y'all for a couple of weeks, but really excited to be back here. In fact, I will actually be back on Thursday because I'm going to be doing another stream to help Max out with that. But for tips and tricks, this is going to be my last episode. Hi to Dave. Hi to Ian. Ian, yay. Zenclef, how's it going? Matt, nice to see you too. Everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. But yeah, last tips and tricks episode. So I'm a little bit sad in a way, but really excited for the next part that's coming up. So I don't know if I won't share too much about it because we're still kind of, conspiring behind the scenes a little bit, but we'll be back for 343 TV season 2 sometime later this year. But no, I'm super excited for that, and maybe there will be a couple of upgrades as well. But for now, this is going to be the last episode of Tips and Tricks for season 1. I'll be doing the last episode of Theory Thursday this Thursday as well on behalf of Max. But I'm also still doing some cool stuff on my own YouTube channel too, which is youtube.com/dolltr. The YouTube channel that we're currently at, which is youtube.com/343labs, is the official 343 Labs school YouTube channel. So for those of us who might be joining in just for the first time, we're a school that's based in New York. We're an Ableton Certified Training Center, but we also have lots of amazing classes for Logic, for stuff like specific topics like synthesis, mastering, songwriting. So there's a lot of that as well. And we're primarily based in New York, but we also, in July, opened up a Berlin location. So our co-founder, Max, is currently over in Berlin taking care of matters there for us. But right here, we do daily programming on 343 Labs' YouTube channel. Labs is, I was thinking of in my head, that apostrophe, but I was like, okay, wait, should I say Labs? Yeah. But yeah, so we have a lot of that going on. And on my own YouTube channel, I also do a lot of that too. So a couple of the instructors also run our own programming, or not instructors, but other people at 343 Labs as well, like TAETRO, who is our creative director. He also has his own stuff. Thomas even does a lot of hardware stuff too. Thomas, who's usually behind the 343 Labs name and is always managing stuff for us. So yay, Thomas, thank you. But yeah, I'm actually going to start a new series in September. So if you hop over to my YouTube channel, which is like I said, youtube.com/dolltr, and you keep an eye out for that, you will be able to see that and to tune in. Will! Hi, Will! Will is another Ableton Certified Trainer like myself. We got certified at the same time, and he also hosts a really awesome show on Twitch called The Electronic Music School, and it's on weekends. So please check out Will's channel too, everyone. And I'm also on Twitch too. We're pretty much like everywhere. 343 Labs is also on Twitch too, so you can pretty much find us everywhere. But on to today's topic for tips and tricks. I thought it might be maybe a little bit, I guess, trying to round off things too. But for those of y'all who have watched a lot of our other streams and a lot of our other content, as well as my own content on my own channel too, you might associate me a lot with controllers and this idea of controllerism. Ooh, controllerism, fancy word, I guess. But yeah, oh no, thanks, Dave. I mean, I'm a little sad too. That's why I kind of feel like super bittersweet about this episode. But in a way, it's I guess it's maybe also a little bit timely that we're all taking a break and like Andrew said, good to get a break for a second before we come back super strong. So just to round things up. This is going to be a Controllerism 101 tips and tricks session. So happy to answer any questions, but I thought I would also just do a really basic walkthrough of what I feel it means to be a controllerist. And I talk about this term a lot with my students, especially because especially when I was doing my undergrad, controllerism and live electronic music performance is really starting to become a really big thing in a lot of shows. Like that was really the time where, for example, certain DJs who were really more known for being DJs, so playing back other people's tracks on, say, CDJs, turntables, were starting to incorporate a lot of live elements into their sets. So say, for example, Illenium started playing a lot of live synths. People who could play guitars would also end up doing a lot of guitar stuff. So for example, like Sanholo would play a lot of guitars in his sets too. Toki Monster would also do a lot of live stuff with like Korg synths layering on top of that. So maybe that also dates me a little bit as far as my experience goes. But we would start having a lot of live electronic music performance merged into DJ related stuff. And also, cool. Thank you, Thomas. Absolutely. 343 TV is not going anywhere. We're just taking like a quick little tiny break. Like I won't be back here on next Monday, but I will be back. Eventually I'll be back. And it's time for some like Terminator stuff. But back to what I was saying just now. I keep digressing about live electronic music performance. This has been going on for years, and it's the reason that live was created. People forget about this, but if you've tuned into my streams, you'll know that I always call Ableton Live instead of short forming it as Ableton. And that's because Ableton is the company and Live is the software. That's also the going to be the logo for my new merch that I'm going to design. It's like, it has my dolltr like logo, and it says Ableton is the company, Live is the software. It's a very like Zen educator sort of thing. But yeah, totally. So Live was created for live performance, and honestly, live electronic music performance has been going on for years. You've got people doing tape stuff all the way back in like 60s, 70s, 80s, live looping, other elements like that too. But I think it's started to become more integrated with other forms of performance too, especially in the electronic music scene, more or less the DJ type of scene. So integrating things in that too. And even turntablism, when it came up in the 80s, that was already live electronic music performance, but maybe we didn't really have the terminology to refer to that. So I'm going to walk you through a couple of ways that I like thinking about controllerism concepts and what it means to play with controllerism. Yeah, totally. Will play live music with live. Absolutely. Or live playing with live. And it's like, I use live in my live shows. And it's like, yeah, of course you use live in your live shows. But no, live is definitely a great choice. It's a great weapon of choice for live shows. I would say that it's much better than a couple of other DAWs. In my experience as a playback engineer, I've used like many different DAWs to do playback, and between using Logic and Pro Tools, oh God forbid, playback and Pro Tools after discovering Live. But yeah, so Live is a really great tool for live performance. And so I'm also going to clarify that most of the things I'm going to show today will be pertaining to session view in Live. Of course, you have things that you can absolutely do in arrangement view as well. I feel like that's its own set of things to talk about, but controllerism in session view and live. And as I walk you through this, I'll also give you through some background, but maybe let's just start off with some drums. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an audio track with drum loops first, but I'm also going to use the MIDI track that I have here. So let's load a drum kit on, and if in the meantime, if I could get a tempo, so any number between, let's do any number between 20 and 999 for the tempo, because those are the tempo limits in live, and any key. So go ahead and list out any key that you would like in the chat on YouTube, everyone. Let's get some info. We'd love to hear from y'all. While I'm doing that, I'll just pull up some drum loops. So I'm also going to pull up a drum kit. Maybe let's just start off with a very straightforward 808 kit, maybe. Let's do the 808 core kit. So let's pull that up onto this MIDI track. And I'm also going to grab some drum loops from the core library as well. So that's going to be in packs, core library, samples, loops, and there's a lot of great samples over here. So maybe, let's do any breaks. Kind of feeling drum, and we did drum and bass last time. Let's do something a little bit more breakbeaty. Yeah, cool. So we got this. I actually do prefer that. So let's put that up instead. Great. Thank you, Dave. We're always here with the 169. Let's do. Okay, cool. So let's take the key from. We got suddenly lots of different things coming in. Let's do the tempo from Dave. Let's maybe do 170, but divide it by 2, so that we get 85. And no people who ever say you don't need math as a musician are misinformed. Let's do. Oh, cool. So let's do F. From Andrew, maybe let's do F minor though. So let's do F minor, and this will be at 85 BPM. So currently we've got this. Sweet. So one thing that you'll see a lot of people do whenever they're doing at least live drumming stuff, I'm also going to rename these really quickly. Let's call this drum loop, and we'll call the core kit here drum kit. Cool. So a lot of things that you might see people do as far as drums go is that sometimes you might hear them play a loop and then maybe layer on top additional sounds. And this is something that I enjoy doing as well. So let's take a look at this drum loop over here. This is a 2-bar drum loop. So what I'm going to do is create an empty MIDI clip in this clip slot over here. We'll double click on this clip slot. And I've just inserted an empty MIDI clip onto this drum track over here, this MIDI track. Now I want to do a couple of things, and maybe the first thing to do is pause this for a second by pressing the space bar. I want to think of a couple of things, and I want to also consider for controllerism the controller itself. So if anyone has favorite controllers that they like, feel free to type that into the chat. I'd love to hear what some of your favorite controllers are. For me, one of my favorite controllers is the Push, or Push, actually, not the Push, just Push. And I specifically use Push 2 a lot. It's made by Ableton, so because of that, it integrates really well with Live. But it's also quite an investment, just to be really frank about it. So what I'm using today is the MPK Mini. I would almost say that it's my go-to controller for a lot of the things that I do if I can only take a one basic controller with me. I usually either take the MPK Mini or I take my Sensel Morph from our friends at Sensel, who are awesome. I don't know if anyone from Sensel's watching right now, but I love the Sensel Morph. We gave one away actually at the very start of 343 TV, which I believe someone here won. Yay! But on a more serious note though, love Push, love MPK Mini also. The Mark III just came out. I'm not sponsored by Akai, but Akai, if you would like to sponsor me and help me out with your stuff, I love your stuff. I love Akai stuff. I have an APC 40 as well. That's also one of my go-tos for anything that has an Ableton script in it. But yeah, I have the MPK Mini here because sometimes that's really all you need to do anything controllerism related. Yeah, well, his name is Push. Meet Push. This is Push. But that's actually what it is. We forget sometimes, right? And we think it's the Push. I use the Live. Yeah, Sensel Morph is very cool. Dave uses it every day. Yay! Great. So happy that you got that, Dave. Yeah, Matt, absolutely. The Launch Key Mini Mark III is fantastic. I'm so glad that you have that. It's really great too. But yeah, over here I've got the MPK Mini. And probably the one thing that the most straightforward thing that I do whenever I get some kind of controller is consider its assets. So over here, I've got the MPK Mini. I've got some cool stuff, right? I've got keys over here. I've also got some knobs hanging out over here. I've got some pads. And I've also got a joystick, which is honestly one of my favorite things because it reminds me a lot of like video gamey stuff. There was a show I did where I mapped something weird to like the joystick, and I was walking around stage with the MPK Mini, and I was just like moving it around, and it got a little bit crazy. But yeah, so those are a couple of things. The MPK Mini is great though because it comes with an editor that lets you edit a couple of the features behind it and the control messages that you're sending. Not going to go too in depth into that so far. But the only reason I'm mentioning this is because if you click on this button over here, it's going to change the banks of controls for your pad. So actually, you don't really have 8 pads. You have 16 pads. So that's something to consider and something that I will mention as well. You can also control if you want it to be like a CC message, or if you want it to be a note message as well, or a program change. So a couple of things to consider, and maybe that's one of the reasons why I'm so fond of the MPK Mini 2. It's very, very flexible if you know how to use it and if you know how to map things. So that's what we're going to get into today. First things first, keeping in mind that this was a 2-bar drum loop. It might be nice to also make this a 2-bar long empty drum clip. So right now I just have this being 1 bar long. How do I know that? I know this because if I take a look at the section over here that says, notes over here, this note section, that's the information, I see that my loop length is 1. So I'm going to go ahead and make this 2. And now I have a 2-bar loop. There's a couple of things I want to be able to do, and because of that, I want to arm this drum track. So maybe I want some kind of control to be able to arm the drum track and play notes back. So I can do things like that. Also I'm in the wrong octave, so let's do this. There we go. So now I'm using my MIDI keyboard, the MPK Mini's keyboard part, to play different kinds of notes. A cool thing about the MPK Mini also is that if you ever wanted to make things full velocity, say for the convenience of playing all these notes at the same velocity, you have an option for that too. It's called full level. So you can turn that on. It'll make everything full velocity. You can also maybe map a certain kind of pad or a certain control that will help us arm and unarm for recording the drum kit so that we're not always using the keys, to play notes back at a certain time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to map a knob to that. I'm going to go into MIDI mapping mode on my live screen over here. And once I've done that, you'll notice that everything turns blue. There's also a really neat shortcut for this. It's Command M on a Mac or Control M on a PC. And once you click on that shortcut, you're going to get into MIDI mapping mode. And anything that appears blue here, anything at all, you can map. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this over here. I'm going to click on my record arm button for my drum kit. And let's map it to this knob over here. So now we'll see, on the top left, we've got some MIDI mappings appearing. I can see that I have, CC101 dedicated to the arm control on my drum track. So excellent. Now, whenever I want to, I can go ahead and arm or unarm with one knob. So I'm just turning the knob, and you can see that arm button turn on and off, depending on my position of the knob. John also has, the Nectar is great. The MPC Touch, an excellent choice as well. Yeah, Zenclef, that's a great point too. Push has really helped my workflow too. It's helped me a lot, not just in performance, but for production as well. So I love how flexible it is as a tool. Glad to hear that. Really glad to hear that. Now that we've got this done, how would I be able to start recording into maybe this drum kit so that I can start looping in or adding in different kinds of loops? Well, it might be nice, first of all, if there were some way for me to launch this particular drum clip without using my mouse. So in this case, again, maybe some kind of control for launching that might be necessary. Let's go ahead and go into MIDI mapping mode again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that first drum clip slot and map it to this pad right over here. So boom, there we go. Aha. Great. So now we have a note and it's mapped to that. So now anytime I want to play that, I can go ahead and press play. I've got my drum kit going, my loop. And now I can play that empty MIDI clip. Ooh, but what if I want to stop the clip though? I mean, now that it's empty, so I don't really have anything in it. But what if I do need to stop it? Might be nice to have some control to do that too. So I'm going to pause again, and let's go into MIDI mapping mode, and let's map the clip stop button on that particular track to another pad. So I've got the pads mapped directly above and below each other. So now I can play, and I can stop. And this will be helpful when we actually have stuff that's recorded into this. Now here's a question though. Now that I've got this done, I've got this empty MIDI clip. How on earth do I start recording into it? How on earth would I do that? Well, the session record button will probably be helpful. This is a little bit of I call it something a little bit mysterious, but only because a lot of people look at it and it's like, oh, what is actually happening? So the session record button over here, in plain words, it's just an overdub button. So if you turn this on and you have any active kind of MIDI clip with a track armed, you're going to be able to overdub sounds into that MIDI clip. So let's see if we can get this going. I'm going to map another MIDI pad to this, and maybe I'll do the top right pad for this one. So we'll use that to toggle on session record. So now check this out. It's gonna involve a few steps, but let's see if we can get this going. Let's play everything. And when I press this top pad, we're going to see the drum kit light up in red now. So instead of green, that play button is in red. And that's also because I have the track armed. So something to note as well. But maybe let's start putting in some additional claps. Maybe I need to make my drum groove a little louder. Cool. So let's overdub some stuff in. Oh gosh. Goodness. Cool. So I just exited overdub mode, and I also exited my, am turning these down. You may have noticed that my timing was terrible, because as you know, I have terrible timing. So what might be a good way to kind of circumvent this? Because I want to be able to layer on different sounds live and kind of do this like pseudo live looping sort of situation. But I would like my timing to maybe be tied up a little bit better. So what I'm going to do is undo this, and instead I'll show you a neat mode that I like to go into whenever I'm, oh, whoops, because I forgot. I made the volume changes. Let's delete all of these notes. And before I do this next round of overdubbing and thinking about this, let's go ahead and set our record quantization. So this is going to be in the edit menu in Live, everyone. You might not be able to see it on my screen right now because I have a portion of it shared. But if you go to the top left, regardless of whether you're on a PC or a Mac, it's always going to be on the top left. You can check out the edit menu and head over to record quantization. Let's set this to 16th note quantization over here. And this is going to help us kind of make things a little bit tighter in time, and as we record them in. And Will just did a project where he used the MIDI mapping feature to allow Live to control a voice live rack using outgoing MIDI. That's very cool. I feel like that's like controllerism like 505 or 808. If this is controllerism 101, that's like controllerism like 808 or something. But that's awesome. Yeah, totally. I think like we often forget like the power of outgoing MIDI. Also I just realized that the reason you couldn't see that on my screen is because my face was blocking it. But it's in the edit menu, everyone. Yeah, totally. Super flexible tool for that. It's funny because I'm watching the stream and it's like I see the exact point that my wording has been delayed, but here we are. Let's keep going with that. So I just set my record quantization to 16th notes. Let's redo this again. I'm going to bring up the volumes for the original drum loop as well as my drum kit. And let's give this shot number 2. Here we go. Let's play this back. Cool. Arm the track. Turn on overdub. And here we go. Let's put some sounds in. Cool. Yeah. Put in some claps. I should also give a disclaimer that my timing for that round was much better. So that also helps a little bit. But yeah, you'll have seen that the notes snapped immediately to the grid in this case. And they snap to 16th notes because that's what we set our quantization to. If we had set it to, say, quarter notes, then things would be a little bit different. But in general, I try to set my grid to 16th notes. I think that's always like a really good starting point. And depending on how good or bad your timing is, you may need to adjust accordingly. But great, I've been able to layer stuff on. Let's continue layering some other sounds on too. So got this happening. Let's go into overdub mode. Maybe we just want to put in a couple of kicks every now and then to kind of supplement the original loop. Cool. So I'm not sure if anyone's noticing this. Maybe if you have astute ears, you are. But my drum groove, my drum kit, really, is on the grid. It's all on the grid. It's all quantized. And yet, it still feels like there might be a little bit something off. So maybe it might be a good idea to check out the breakbeat loop. And alas, there is something that's a little different here. So I'm going to stop my drum kit with my pad that I've assigned. And let's just listen to the breakbeat loop. Ah, cool. So even though it's pretty much warped to the tempo of the song. Again, the original tempo of this loop was was a little bit faster. I believe it was like a 90 BPM. It might be a good idea to try warping this and to try making sure that each of the hits that we have set up are indeed in time. Because if I play this back even with the metronome in live, we'll hear that things are just very slightly off. Right? You can hear that the fourth beat especially is a little bit ahead of the beat. When you hear that snare hit, it's almost anticipating a little bit. And true enough, you can also see that here. You can see that visually, that this transient is a little bit before 1.4. So what I'm going to do over here is see if this works. Let's see if we can quantize this particular clip. We forget sometimes that we can also quantize audio in live. So let's select all by pressing Command A and or Control A if you're on a PC, and let's do Command U. Boom, there we go. Awesome, locked in. Let's try our drum kit again. Here we go. Yeah. And this is the cool part. I'm going to make this softer. This is the cool part about being able to toggle on and off between overdub and not overdubbing. Why? Because sometimes maybe I just want to play the notes in. Maybe I just wanted to add in an extra snare here and there. Without recording it in. But if I do eventually want to record it in, then I have the option of doing so. Because that's a part of live playing too, right? Maybe you just want to add in a tom. Now and then. Maybe you also just want to add in some like random cymbals as well. So that could also be a performative sort of thing. In this case though, maybe I want to add in a couple of snares. Exit overdubbing mode. Cool. Great. Ooh, a couple of thoughts. Let me make this a little softer too. Yeah, quantized audio is a great trick. I think like, I will say though, I'm going to pause all of this. I will say that sometimes quantized audio, depending on the actual clip itself, your mileage may vary. The reason why this worked so well is because this is a part of the core library in live. So like it's just like it's more suitable for being quantized, tested, tried, tested. I've done a bunch of things with this before. But of course, that doesn't mean you can't move stuff around too. Maybe we want this to be a little bit different, right? So maybe we'll do like shift this a little bit here. Which I like doing a lot sometimes also in repitch mode. That gets fun. Right? Get a lot of that. That's another kind of like trick. I guess it's a tip or a trick that you get sometimes also. But then it makes more sense because you can layer stuff on. Cool. So I'm already thinking of a couple of other performative ideas that I could do with this, but I do want to maybe add some chords to this, and this is really where the reason for having that arm on and arm off button comes useful. So I've got this armed now. Let's add in a new MIDI track and let's maybe put in some kind of very simple pad sound. So I've got my drum kit selected. We'll create a new MIDI track by pressing Control-Shift-T or Command-Shift-T. Great, so we've got that up here. And I'm also going to just arrange this a little bit. Ooh, whoops, oh dear. Moving things in and out everywhere. Great. And let's also color code these. Generally, whenever I think of drums, I think of them as a little bit of warmer colors. And when I think of pads, I think of them as purples or shades of pink, depending on what kinds of sounds they are. It's not synesthesia. Someone asked me this before. It's not. It's just it's just my color coding scheme, I guess. But let's head over here. We've got instruments. Let's look for a pad and operator. I'm feeling kind of FME today. So let's do pads and boop, boop, boop. Ooh, Cassandra pad. That's a good one. Greetings. Cool. So, the reason I said greetings, sometimes I make a joke about this with some of my students also, but whenever we have pads that are named after people, I think there's also there's a pad called Bailey pad, and one of my friends is actually called Bailey, so I go like, greetings. And so in this case, we've got Cassandra pad. I'm going to rename this track and call it pad. But this would be another thing that we might want to say have the ability to arm and unarm also, because I don't want to be playing my pad all the time, right? So that's a lovely pad though. So in this case, let's go back into MIDI mapping mode and let's use our second knob to do the arm and unarm thing for that. And correspondingly, we'll also set up some kind of looping system for us. So let's map the knobs and buttons as well. Great, there we go. And while we're at it, let's see, I was about to jump a little bit ahead of myself. We'll not jump super far yet, but let's add some stuff on now too. So here we go. Got these. Very cool. Let's think of some pad sounds that maybe we can record in F minor. Change the octave as well. Cool. I think I got a bit of an idea. So let's try recording this in. Here we go. Ooh, I think I did that a little bit late. Did I? Oh no, that's because I pressed the wrong button again. No problem. Let's get this going. Also, this is not necessarily an F minor anymore because there's like a ambiguous E flat. It makes it sound like it's an E flat. That's okay. We're now in E flat major. Thanks, Will. Yeah. Great. So now we can decide to bring these in and out whenever we want to, right? So we can stop all of these. Maybe we're starting off with this loop. And then we bring in the pad. And when we're ready for some more drums, we then have the option of bringing those in too. Cool, here we go. Cool. And then, of course, we can, stop everything and do a couple more things. One thing that is driving me nuts at the moment, and maybe this is because I'm just trying to be organized, is that these colors don't match on my drum loop. It's like, oh. So I'm just going to quickly go and reassign track color to clips. And that's right-click, and you can assign whatever clips you have in a particular track to match the color of that track. It's a feature that came out in Live 10, so it's just going to be right-click and doing that as well. Yes, Dave, the haunting 9 added. Amazing. So great. Now we've got these drum stuff. We got the drums. We got the pad. It might be nice though to have some kind of effect on this too, because I almost feel like it could be some kind of I don't know, situation where maybe we start off with this very cool drum loop. Maybe it's like filtered in a way, and then we bring in the additional stuff too. So that might be a good opportunity to have a couple of things on the master track. So let's head over to the master track. And as a quick reminder, if you ever are looking at your master track, you can always put effects onto it. Sometimes people forget about that too. But I have a custom effects rack that I've built for myself. And for people who are curious about this, it's actually something I think I did mention in one of my previous streams too. So I talked about different effects and how you can make your own rack. But I have a high pass filter here, which you'll also hear on my voice. So if I click on this knob and if I drag upwards, oh, there's my high pass filtered voice. I've also got a low pass filtered voice. It might be nice if we could use these controls from the MPK Mini itself. So that might be something to consider. I could start doing that. So let's try putting it into Midi mapping mode. Let's do high pass filter with this knob and low pass filter with this knob. Great. So now if I wanted to start off maybe with just the drum loop going, I can do maybe some kind of filter. You'll hear my voice being filtered as well. But I can start with this. And that could be like a cool sort of intro to do in a way. And Scott, Cassandra pad sounds nice, but not in your bass live. Yeah, do you recall where you got it? Thanks. Yeah, Scott, a great way to find different kinds of things is to use the search bar in Ableton Live. So let's take a look at that. If you're in the browser, there's going to be a search bar at the top, and you can also use the keyboard shortcuts Control F or Command F, depending on whether you're on a PC or a Mac. So let's look up Cassandra. And let's see where that pops up. It will usually pop up. This is an operator device because I wanted to use some kind of operator pad for a couple of features that I wanted to look into later. So yeah, try out the search bar. It's really useful. I joke about this with people, but like it's if anyone ever has questions about stuff, I sometimes joke, and if it's very rudimentary, I'll see something that people some occasionally don't like, but I'll be like, let's try Googling it. Totally. Searching for things is always an excellent way to find it. And again, this version of Live that I'm using is Live 10 Suite. So if you aren't able to find it, it might be because, like you said, you could be using a different version of Live. Will, thanks so much for popping by. Thanks, Will. Really appreciate it. Will's an awesome educator as well. I've said multiple times, but I would have loved to be like a high school student of Will if I were in high school, if I could like time travel back many years just to be able to do that. But yeah, it's so let's get back to this. Searching is a great tool. You can absolutely search for something, but it is an operator pad. So yeah, right now we've got this. Off the top of my head, I'm also thinking it could be nice to maybe include some kind of, like I said, some kind of thing that might help us control the pad a little too. So what I'm going to do now is stop all of my clips, but I'm going to play back the pad. And I'm noticing it has a couple of macros here that are really great, right? So you can kind of like control these. That's a really lovely sound. Filter cutoff. So maybe that's some kind of control that we want to use on the pad. And I'm going to go ahead and map this as well. Here we go. Great. Cool. So now, if I wanted to play this back immediately. Very cool. Awesome. So now I have control over the pad as well. That's another kind of control that I like to think about too when I'm dealing with controllerism. Scott, did that. You have Suite, but it's not showing up latest version. That cool. So you might have something to do with your Live library. It could have either be misinstalled in a different location, or you might have not have downloaded all the packs that do come with Live 10 Suite. So go ahead and check that out. That's something that you'll have to check in your account, or you can also just hit up the Ableton Live team if you have any issues with that too. Zen had a question. I see chorus as a commonly used effect on pads. Why is that the case? Well, that's an excellent question, Zen. Chorus, I like to think of it as there's a couple of ways to explain the effect, but without going super in depth and nerding out, I like to think about chorus as being a little bit of something that changes the timbre of the pad or the sound quality. So let's do a little bit of an experiment. I'm going to play back the pad and let's change the chorus. And if anyone is listening at the moment and you're hearing any changes, feel free to type into the chat what you are hearing in the changes. So here we go. Here's original pad. And I'll change chorus. You might need headphones also. So no chorus, more chorus, no chorus, more chorus. Cool. So I'm going to just take a pause there. If anyone has any thoughts about this, feel free to type it into the YouTube chat. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. But as a first thought that comes to my head, immediately there is some kind of audible timbral change. And again, it might be a bit harder to hear if you don't have headphones on, but oh, excellent, cool. Yeah, totally. Dave, thank you. Sound is separating across the stereo field. Absolutely. So what we're actually hearing again, trying not to be super, super technical because we can go very in depth with this, but if you put a chorus up on something, generally it's going to change what you're hearing in your left and right ear. And because of that, it's going to change the sound quality, the timbre of a sound. So the more chorus you have, in general, the more of this wobbly kind of effect you might have. And for that reason, it might be common on pads because sometimes we think of pads as being very lush and very, trying to think of other words, maybe very dreamy if you're going for a dreamy sort of pad. So because of that, it kind of thickens up the sound a little bit. And Ian, yes, totally. Softens the Italianizing, it thickens it in some sense. Absolutely. We use the same word, so totally. Ian is a great electronic musician as well, everyone, and a friend of mine. So we kind of think about choruses as well. Yeah, so we got the chorus going. It's kind of adding a little bit. And you know what? That might be something nice to have up a little bit. I like what it sounds like when it's so far up. And just as a little bit of maybe tying things back into maybe even real life, if you think about a chorus, maybe I dare say this, but oftentimes when we say the word chorus, maybe we think of a choir or we think of a part of a song that's sung by many people. If it's like a group of people singing, like the chorus, everyone sings the chorus of the song. So on that note too, a chorus sometimes sounds like you may have different people playing the same thing, but because of that, it's thickening things up. A great way of doing this as an example is on a vocal effect. I often put a chorus on my vocals to kind of like, if I want an effect that maybe seems as if there's 3 or 4 of me at the same time. If you tune things in the right way and you find the right parameters, that's what a chorus is also really great at doing. So you might have one original vocal recording, but maybe it might sound like there's, say, like 3 of you. You know what? Actually, let's just go ahead and do this instead of me just speaking about it, because this is worth talking about, I think. So I'm going to grab just the normal default chorus, and I'll put it on my monitoring mic. So here is my voice with the chorus. And maybe you can hear a little bit of a difference now. Again, here is my voice before the chorus. La 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 la, la la la. Here is my voice with the chorus on it. And if I make it more wet, you'll hear that there's like more of me in both of your ears. There's 2 of Claire. There's Claire on the left, there's Claire on the right. And they're kind of like having some kind of strange chorused conversation. But let's delete that, and I'll go back here. Maybe I should have just do the rest of the stream with a chorus on my voice, but no. But yeah, so let's have our pads going. We also have some control over filter cutoff. Great. Cool. Now, as with everything else, though, it might be nice to have like just a general start and stop control for the drum loop too. So what I'm going to actually end up doing is I'm going to put this all the way on the right side, just for organizational purposes right now, because I think I want to have MIDI on the left and audio on the right. And this is, again, something that's a little bit of up to you as a controllerist and as a performance designer, but I'm going to map these over here as well. So now I have control on basically all of the clips that I have, and it's just a scene, but even in this scene, we can already start to build some kind of performance out with it. So let's go ahead and try this out. What I'm also going to do is maybe add on one more track. Maybe let's pull up another MIDI track that we can map in the same way. And while I'm doing this, does anyone have a suggestion for some other kind of sound that we should use? If you have a suggestion for a sound that we should use to fill up this last MIDI track that I have over here, go ahead and put that in the YouTube chat. And I'll map this on my end too, just to make sure we're all mapped up. And I'll also save this project. It might be cool to save as well. So any suggestions for a last instrument that you can put on here? Go ahead and put that in the chat. In the meantime, though, I'm going to do some other prep work. So I'm going to move this clip out of the way, this drum clip that I recorded previously. Let's just going to put that down there because I want to record a clip from scratch, actually. So that'll be something to do. Using the arm buttons, doing all of that. Same thing for pads. We'll record from scratch as well. Cool. And I think for the pads, let me just check something. Have that going. Great. Cool. Any suggestions from the chat for instruments? I'll wait a couple more seconds. And it might be the delay again between the chat itself and the time that I say something. I'll have a drink of coffee and let's see if we have suggestions after I finish my drink. Any suggestions? No? Maybe? Yes? Well, if there aren't, I'll go ahead and look for a sound as well. Maybe let me head over to instruments and let's do analog this time. Let's look for an analog. Just checking out the chat again. Ooh, Luis, a horn of some kind. Excellent. Yeah, let's go for that. Let's do, let's look for maybe like a brass sort of thing. So let's do, let's look for orchestral brass. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Let's do like a staccato brass kind of thing. So now we have the power to arm that track as well if we want to. That could be nice. Let's also just go ahead and put some reverb on this. And delay might be fun. Very cool. Let's do brass. And let's try to build something out of this. So what I want to do, maybe even for the brass, is depending on what happens, I may or may not record a clip into it. But let's say I wanted to do it from scratch. So, ooh, we suddenly got these back in as well. But no, we got the brass. Okay, cool. That's good for me to know because now I know the kind of exact delay between the time I say something and the time that we get suggestions. So while I'm going ahead and doing this, if anyone has any general questions about controllerism, please leave them in the chat. I'd love to maybe answer them a little bit after this. This is just kind of an overview of what are a couple of things that I associate with doing controllers, especially if you have a generic MIDI controller, not something like Push or an APC40 that's integrated with Live. So here we go. Let's try and build this out. I've got my drums going. And let's start filtered. Let's also make sure just in case that our levels are good. Yes. Cool. Because we do want our levels to be all set. So here we go. Let's go for this. Let's try this out. And if it doesn't work, we can always make changes. That's kind of the beauty of it. Here we go. Ooh, cool. Yay, cool. So that was like a really simple type of controlleristic performance in a way. Rad Beats Bro, greetings. Is there any way to select all the MIDI in a session all at once in live, like in Logic? That's an excellent question. So you need to make sure that first of all of your clips will be MIDI clips if you want to select all the MIDI. I'm assuming that you specifically mean MIDI tracks. So there's a couple of ways to do it. If you wanted to select the individual tracks, you could hold down Shift and select the first track to any other track that you want to click on. If you wanted to select MIDI clips themselves, then you could click on one clip and you could hold down Shift and you could highlight them within any kind of grid scenario that you get. You can also hold down Command if you want to select multiple individual clips. So yes, there are absolutely several ways to select the MIDI in a session in live. Depends on exactly what you want to select and why. But that's a great question. And yeah, that's a basic kind of performance and controllerism that we just saw. Of course, there are tons of different kinds of things you can do too, but I feel like what I just did was maybe arguably some of the quote-unquote fundamentals maybe that we think about. So things like live looping, things like playing on top before actually recording something in, things like doing live effects processing, and maybe that's a good place to kind of wrap up for the 101 and maybe take any questions if you have any last questions, opening it up to the floor. But no, that's a great question. And welcome, Rad Beats Bro, if it's your first time tuning in. I think it might be my first time seeing your name in the chat. And just to put everyone on the same page then, this is technically the ending of season 1 of Tips and Tricks, but I will be back soon, and 343 TV is something that we will be continuing. in the future. So we're always very thankful for the support that we've had, especially on the YouTube channel. If you enjoyed what you saw, please subscribe. Subscribe to the 343 Labs YouTube channel, and you can turn on that notification bell if you want to be notified of whenever we go live or whenever we have a new video. And I also have programming on my own YouTube channel too. So you can check me out at youtube.com/dolltrick. That's DOLLTRICK. Although my artist name, if anyone would like to listen to my music, which is in the intro and outro parts of this stream, you can find me in lowercase letters as DOLLTR !CK. And that's going to be me in the chat as well. A couple of people said hi too. So thanks so much everyone for tuning in. Just going to wait a couple more seconds for any final questions or any final thoughts. If you enjoyed this or if you didn't enjoy it, which you're more welcome to tell me also if you did enjoy something. But yeah, let me just also check the delay because I'm wondering how much of a delay there is. It seems to be like more of a delay than usual at this time. So that's pretty interesting. Is there? Maybe. Time for coffee. I feel like coffee is always a good thing to take you between like stuff. Oh yeah, thanks so much, Dave, for the kind words. Yeah, totally. I think like the live class that we have at 343 Labs is a really great way of, being able to get introduced to live. So Thomas, actually, if I could ask for Thomas's help, Thomas, if you could put the link in the chat for classes with us, that would be awesome. Because we do have some upcoming classes. I will be teaching a class on live as well starting September if you're interested in getting to know more of this as well. Luis, any chance we can get our hands on those mastering chain racks or how to if you have one available? Yeah, I've done previous streams before on that. Actually, Luis, so you can feel free to check those out. As far as the mastering stuff, I also usually reserve specific racks for my own students. So you can get in touch with us if you'd like to take a class with that as well. Yeah, absolutely. Experimentation is an excellent thing to do too. And, people who have tuned into my previous streams before will maybe know that this is my catchphrase or one of my several catchphrases. In addition to Ableton is the company, Live is the software. It's also that the Ableton reference manual is a really great resource. It's called the Ableton reference manual because it doesn't just cover Live, it also covers Push. So for anyone who's into Push, the reference manual is great. It was one of the first things that I read when I was getting into Push, when I was getting into Live in general too. In fact, one of the first things that I did was read the manual because I just found it so engaging. It's probably one of the most well-written manuals out there that I've been able to come across. And because of that, I started doing this podcast thing where I read the manual in my podcast. It's called RTFM. So that's another thing that I do too. Lots of different kinds of things going on. But yeah, it's I'd say experiment, Louise, if you're interested, and check out the other streams that I've done before. I've talked about other racks like for vocal processing, for other sorts of things as well. Otherwise, we can also chat about having you buy them. So that's something else too as well. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Really appreciate all of you as always. Super excited for the next season. Thanks Thomas, who's been managing all the streams and who's been helping us with all the tech stuff across all the streams. Big hand for Thomas, everyone. If you're in the chat, please give us some claps for Thomas. Last reminder to subscribe, and you can also check out our other programming the rest of the week. We're live every day at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, United States, on this YouTube channel. And we will have Techno Tuesday tomorrow, maybe with the amazing Mr. John Selway, or it could also be with someone else. But we will have programming tomorrow, so please stay tuned for that. Otherwise, have a great rest of the day, everyone. And I will see you again on Thursday for Theory Thursday. But otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in to Tips and Tricks. This has been Dolltrick or Claire. Bye.
Across the universe, a whisper wakes. Have you been listening for a wind of change? My ears are open, eyes aren't closed. I'm waiting for a miracle again. Have you been calling out my name? Oh, we're in a world taken by madness, sadness in a sea of stolen words, broken and shattered. What mattered means no more. In a time shaken by thunder, wonder is the seed of life forgone, crippling under. What happened to us all? We fade, pulled back into the shade. We fade, pulled back into the shade. Just fade away, melt into a memory. You can't save the day. If only you had tried. Just fade away, melt into a memory. You can't save the day. If only you had tried. Across the ocean blue, a wave will rise, consuming all who walk through day and night. My heart is beating with the drums. The breath is coursing through my lungs again. Or is it just a trick of time? We're in a world taken by madness, sadness in a sea of stolen words, broken and shattered. What mattered means no more. In a tide breaking the silence, violence is the wage of life forlorn, fighting for triumph. What happened to us all? Just fade away, melt into a memory. You can't save the day. If only you had tried. Just fade away, melt into a memory. You can't save the day. If only you had tried. We fade, pulled back into the shade. We fade, pulled back into the Across the universe, a whisper wakes. Have you been listening for a wind of change? My ears are open, eyes aren't closed. I'm waiting for a miracle again. Have you been calling out my name? Oh. We're in a world taken by madness, sadness in a sea of stolen words, broken and shattered. What mattered means no more. In a time shaken by thunder, what happened to us all.